welcome this afternoon, and hopefully this time you've grabbed yourself a cup of tea. It was coffee before, but this afternoon it's tea, which suits me down to the ground because I'm an avid Earl Grey lady, and I always have it with some lemon in it. So really enjoying my cup of tea. So I'll be drinking it with you as we go through this afternoon. So those of you that don't know me, I'm Liz Sandwith. I'm the Chief Professional Practices Advisor for the Chartered Institute of Internal Auditors UK and Ireland. And if you don't know who or what the Chartered Institute is, the Chartered Institute of Internal Auditors is the only professional body dedicated exclusively to training, supporting and representing internal auditors in the UK and Ireland. We have approximately 10,000 members in all sectors of the economy and in all parts of the UK and Ireland. And as members, we are part of a global network of over 200,000 members in 170 countries, all working to the same international standards and code of ethics. And interestingly, I've noticed today we have someone joining us from the Philippines. So you get a feel perhaps for the breadth and depth of the profession across the globe. So, sorry. So what are we talking about today? Today we're going to talk about disruption. Disrupting and disrupted. Where have you been during the great pandemic of 2020? Crises happen all the time, but few in the past 50 years have affected as many countries, sectors and people as the COVID-19 virus. What can businesses learn from the disruption? What is the new normal? For internal audit, and should internal auditors be more disruptive of themselves? So I want to not just focus solely on COVID today. I want us to think about disruption in its widest form, and I want us to think about it from an internal audit perspective. So what have you learnt during the last 16 weeks that you are going to carry forward into your future and build upon? So remember, if you like Facebook streams and want to spread the word, and I'm sure you do, be sure today's live stream is one to share. You can do so by clicking the share button in the corner of your screen. The more the merrier. So what do we mean by disruption? Disruption is a process, not a product or service, and it occurs from the fringe to the mainstream. It often originates in low-end, less demanding customers or new markets where something didn't exist before. So if we wind the clock back and we think back to Henry Ford and the man who made the car, I think if he'd have said to his customers or to the customers who used horse-drawn vehicles, what do you want? They would have probably said to him, more powerful horses. But he didn't. He thought, how can I change this market? What can I do to move things forward, to be innovative? And hence the car. Although, of course, you might remember you could only have it in black. The theory of disruption predicts that when an entrant tackles incumbent competitors head on, offering better products or services, the incumbents will accelerate their innovations to defend their business. When new technology arises, disruption theory can guide strategic choices. So examples of companies disrupted: Netflix, great example of disruptive innovation. Its DVD by mail model turned the video rental business on its head and helped push an industry titan, Blockbuster, into bankruptcy. As a startup and outsider, Netflix was able to see that Blockbuster underserved many users. So if you think about it slightly wider, Netflix didn't kill Blockbuster. One might argue their ridiculous late fees did, but they didn't respond. Uber didn't kill the taxi business. Limited access and fare control did. Apple didn't kill the music industry. Being forced to buy full-length albums did. Amazon didn't kill other retailers. Poor customer service and experience did. Although, to be fair, I must say over the last few weeks, the service I've had from Amazon in terms of ordering cartridges for my printer, etc., has been brilliant. Airbnb isn't killing the hotel industry. Often limited availability and pricing options are. So technology by itself is not the disruptor. Not being customer-centric is the biggest threat to any business. So if you look at some of the people that we talk about and we know, I think it's interesting to explore some of the detail. So, for example, Airbnb, the largest the world's largest accommodation provider, according to stats, it owns no real estate. Facebook, the most popular media owner, owns no content. Apple, the world's largest software vendor, owns no apps. So let's keep that in the back of our mind as we think about how we are moving forward. So as we ease out of lockdown, reopen our shops, offices, one mantra keeps being repeated. The new normal will not be like the old normal. But what does that mean in practice? And how can we use our recent experiences to improve what we do in the future? Any periods of immense disruption sends ripples through many interrelated areas. And if you think about some of those ripples, think about firms like Burberry and Barbour, who moved from making, expensive raincoats and wax jackets into making PPE. So they changed their business model to cater and respond to customer demand. From the economy to our working practice, means of travel, and even our deeper political and social beliefs have been disrupted. It makes many people start to question what they want and what they value. And such questions can be unsettling and disturbing. So, if you're just joining us, welcome to our live stream, Talk to Internal Audit. Today's theme is disruption. What can businesses learn from disruption? What's the new normal? And for internal audit, should we be more disruptive of ourselves? We're discussing all this and more, so please stay with me. In a business sense, the word disruption usually refers to a new entrant in an established market that uses innovative ways to transform the sector and pull market share away from its larger, less agile and more traditional competitors. And we've seen that, haven't we, in the banking sector. So we've seen the big high street banks, and then we've seen the new challenger banks, Atom, Starling, all of those coming into the market. And we need to recognise that in our own organisations. The disturbance it causes, that is disruption, forces others to adapt rapidly and may lead to a permanent and long-term realignment of key players and their customers. Ripples will spread further outwards as the economy moves up a gear. Changes to working practices and shopping habits, delays to supply chains, and requirements to practice social distancing will have further effects on factors such as offices, high streets, and travel. And we heard, I was on a webinar this morning, and they were talking about the death of the city. Will people ever return to cities in the way that they did in the past? And there was a sort of pro and a con. Some were saying, of course, they've got to, because without cities, our economy is going to struggle. But also some were saying, but why would we? Because we have demonstrated, very, very quickly, that actually businesses can continue in some sectors, not all, can continue with a high percentage of their staff working from home. So let's bear that in mind. And as with all disruptions, there will be winners and losers. Remember what I said at the beginning about the horse-drawn carriages? So the people who owned the horses and hired them out would suddenly find themselves with no market because Mr. Ford had come along with his cars. So some of these can be predicted now. The CEO of Barclays has already questioned whether our largest banks need offices that hold 7,000 people. British Airways announced huge redundancies as it admitted that air travel may not return to pre-crisis levels for years, if at all. And BP changed its view on whether it was worth exploiting some of its remaining oil reserves. Such decisions will have lasting repercussions for city centre and regional property prices, local and national suppliers. And one of the things that's becoming abundantly clear is people are returning to local high street shops rather than perhaps going, because of social distancing, masks, etc., rather than going to large retail parks. So the winners are the local high street shops, losers the retail parks perhaps. Public and private transport and energy investment and costs. Others will certainly emerge over the coming months. But it is essential that even those organisations not directly affected by massive disruption from COVID-19 watch and learn from the consequences it is having on others, as well as on their own stakeholders. Disruption on this scale drives change and innovation, and those that fail to spot these shifts may miss out on opportunities in their own sectors or fall behind more sharp-eyed and imaginative competitors. At this juncture, I would like to invite anyone watching to feedback on disruption they've experienced personally or professionally. Tell me what disruption means to you and how it's impacted your role by leaving a comment in the live stream with any useful examples you can think of. Challenge is key. Disruption by a competitor, a virus, a demonstrator challenges us to adapt to circumstances, improve the way we do things, and create change. This may mean changing our processes, our physical surroundings, our skills, or our attitudes, or all of those. But challenge is what internal auditors do. Internal audit is the group in a business above all others with a remit to challenge the executive and the status quo. Whenever the business and its managers miss opportunities or fall short of their stated aims and standards, it may take courage and some tact, but a crisis is a good time to demonstrate value and to offer ideas for solutions as well as criticisms. So think about that. Think about your organisation. Think about what it's doing. Is it achieving its purpose? Is its strategy aligned to its purpose? And is its business model delivering its strategy and its purpose? As organisations look to manage their expanding risk profile, it is becoming increasingly complex for internal audit functions to evaluate and monitor the breadth of the risks through traditional risk assessment activities. Historically, internal audit functions have had to limit access to technology to leverage in completing the risk assessment, thereby resulting in a significant manual effort to gather and process the necessary data. As a result, many risk assessment processes may not be reaching their full potential in analysing risk and providing value to the internal audit function and the organisation as a whole. One of our speakers at our Heads of Internal Audit virtual forum that we run every week on a Wednesday said that perhaps now is the time for internal audit to work more closely with our risk colleagues and look to reset the risk agenda. I really like that phrase, reset the risk agenda. And I think that's something that we need to take on board and absolutely sign up to, because the risk world is different now. The risks that our organisations are facing are different. And if we get too bogged down with the risks we've always had, the risks that we are comfortable in supporting our organisation to assess, monitor, manage, then we won't help our organisation move forward. But perhaps equally important, as internal audit, we won't move ourselves forward either. PwC has noted a trend, a mega trend that they're seeing is the need to be able to balance risk effectively. With any kind of disruption, you get great opportunities and also potentially significant downsides. For example, in the debate about whether a track and trace app is an invasion of privacy or the answer to helping us stay healthy, how much data are people prepared to give away for safety? And hopefully you'll see a poll, and I'd be interested in your thoughts. So if you could vote, that would be really helpful. Is track and trace app a necessary form of personal disruption? So what do we think about that? Are you prepared to embrace this technology so that you are made aware if you've been in contact with someone who has tested positive, or would you rather not get involved? So share your thoughts, and it'll be interesting to see how that, what you think. Can I just remind you, if you've just joined us, welcome to our live stream. Talk to Internal Audit. Today's theme is disruption. We've just spoken about how disruption drives change and innovation, and are about to look at what disruption looks like in a forward-looking internal audit department. So what was the results? So the results were 86% of you said yes, it is a necessary form of personal disruption. No one said no, and 13% said they were unsure, as you will see there. So, forward-looking internal audit departments are disrupting their internal audit risk assessment process. They're not satisfied with the status quo, and they want better information and greater insight to drive their audit strategy and plan. These organisations' departments are using technology to quantitatively assess and evaluate the risks, and are innovating how they engage with key stakeholders. They're focused on aligning with the company's strategic priorities and objectives, providing insights to the business and delivering value that impacts the organisation in a new and different way. E&Y have identified 5 primary characteristics within internal audit risk assessment processes. Innovation. Introduce new and transformative methods, tools and enablers to drive greater efficiency, effectiveness and value. And that's something we can all embrace. Interaction. Foster real-time engagement and connection with key organisational stakeholders to quickly respond and adjust to the changing risk landscape. How frequently are you meeting your head of risk, your chief risk officer? How frequently are you talking to your senior management colleagues? I'm sure we can all do more in that space. We can all talk more frequently and share thoughts and ideas, share information that we've seen. Watch the news, read the press. What are we hearing? How does that impact on our organisation? Impact. We can shift the focus to the risks that impact the organisation's most strategic priorities, business opportunities, and pressing challenges in a timely manner. Don't let them get too far down the path before you flag some concern. Information. Efficiently and effectively identify, gather, and synthesize quantitative and qualitative data from various sources, both internal and external, to better focus internal audit's activities on the risks that matter. And remember, the Institute will be producing its Risk in Focus 2021, launch date 22nd of September, and also don't forget at the beginning of the year, January, quiet month after Christmas, all the excitement, although I'm not quite sure what that's going to look like this year, but the World Economic Forum produces its risk report. Have a look at it. Think about it, what it's got to say in line with what you're saying in your organisation. So hopefully we can work together to make sure that we're focusing on the internal audit risks and the risks the organisation is facing. Insight. Increase the relevance and power of the information and data obtained during the risk assessment and turn it into insights that influence the audit plan and positively impact the organisation. Internal audit is there to protect the organisation, but its remit to challenge and to speak truth to power also makes it clear that protection can involve being proactive and innovative. At times of crisis, it's not enough to criticise or help to patch up what has already been done. Internal audit can also provide ideas and insights, a fresh point of view, a new way of looking at something and assessing data that produces alternative choices. So think about your organisation. Think about some of these things in relation to what you're doing. Think about how you can be more innovative of yourself. So to do this effectively, both organisations and internal audit need to challenge itself and turn its scrutiny on its own practices and sacred cows. What in your internal audit function is a sacred cow? What would you not be allowed to change? Is it your report format? Is it your sample sizes? I remember way back in the day when I was doing my training, sample sizes were always 25. Nobody knew quite why, but we always tested a sample of 25. Today, with tools such as data analytics, we can do 100% of any population. So what are the sacred cows? I hope it's not reporting, because I think one of the things that we have to take away from the current environment and drive forward as an innovative tool is our reporting. How can we be faster in our reporting? How can we be more effective in communicating messages to senior people, audit committee, even the CEO? I worked for a CEO who used to say to me, every time you've done a report, I want to see it. And when I first started, I thought she meant the whole report, so I would give it to her. No, she said, I want to see what you've got to say. What's your findings? What are we going to change? What are the issues? So I put them together and probably got a couple of pages and sent her that. No, she said, half a page on an email. Tell me what I need to know. And then looked at me and said, if you can't tell me in half a page, you either don't understand the problem or you're missing the point. Half a page, tell me what I need to know. Great way of thinking, and it worked. And I got more focused. I really thought, sitting there in her place as a CEO of an organisation, what does she need to know? What are the key messages I need to share with her in half a page? We worked really well together, and I still communicate. I'm still in touch with her to this day. So building those relationships, understanding what our customers want, and being innovative in terms of how we deliver that has got to be the way forward. So what can be dropped or superseded? What should be changed? What other information can be tapped and other voices consulted? So do you have a box of people you always talk to? Change the box. Talk to different people. I always say to my teams when I've been a head of audit, you know, all of you should be talking to members of the audit committee. Not just me talking to the chair, but talk to people. Talk to senior directors. Find out what's going on. Understand the business. And I think that in order to be effectively disruptive of ourselves, we need to look in the mirror and make sure that we are really delivering the very best that we can do. My father told me when I was growing up that I should, every night before I go to bed, I should look in the mirror and I should ask myself one question. Have I done the very best I could possibly do today? And if I can answer yes to that, he said, then you can go to bed and sleep well. He said, if you answer no, then reflect on what you've done today, how you could have done it differently, and then make sure tomorrow you do better. And I think that's about us as a profession and moving forward. So what have we done well? What are we going to bottle, take forward with us as we move into the new future, the new normal, whatever we want to call it? And also, what lessons have we learned and what are we going to change about the way that we work? Disruption is a massive threat for businesses and for individual livelihoods. And we've seen that, you know, we've seen it a lot in COVID, but, you know, where are all the staff that worked at Blockbusters? Where are all the men who drove the horse-drawn carriages? You know, disruption makes impact on people's livelihoods. If we're not going to be travelling to the same extent anymore, where are all the pilots going to go? All the air crew on planes? Where are all the planes going to go? So impact on livelihood, and internal audit is no exception. I think as we move forward, as we have a better understanding of the impact of the current disruption, i.e. COVID, on organisations, we will have a better understanding as to whether internal audit is going to come out of this unscathed or whether there's going to be impacts on our profession. If, you know, people are going to lose their roles because their organisation goes insolvent, downsizes massively, what skills are internal auditors going to be able to take to the marketplace to find other roles? Now, I genuinely think that one of the real skills of internal audit is our knowledge of business, governance, risk and control. So we need to build on that and use every opportunity to make sure that we are upskilling as quickly as we can. So we need to think about how do we spot and seize opportunities for change and innovation. Audit teams, internal auditors can help themselves, and while they're doing that, they will also be helping the organisation. In the July August edition of Audit and Risk magazine, hopefully you've read it or you've accessed it on our website, PwC highlighted that they're seeing 4 major sources of disruption impacting on internal audit. Technology disruption, such as major corporate programs, you know, those sorts of things, new markets, supply of people. Business disruption, such as major corporate programs, emergence of remote working, shared service centres, visualisation of services, all of the sorts of things that we're thinking about, new re-engineering processes, new markets, and supply of people and talent. Operating model disruption, geopolitical changes, new regulations, changes in customer behaviour, all of those sorts of elements are going to impact on us. market disruption, geopolitical changes, new regulations, and some of this has prompted many organizations to change the way they're working and embracing things that perhaps they've not embraced before. So some of the things that have been coming out of our weekly Heads of Internal Audit conversations have been around what Heads of Audit are learning. Please have a look at our COVID-19 hub, because there are the notes of the minutes, the notes of the meeting there, and they're available to all of you. So COVID-19 brings many challenges. I want to think about the future a moment for organizations. However, it is a powerful game changer in terms of ways of working, particularly for those sectors and organizations that have previously been hesitant to enable employees to work remotely. So your organization, does it fall into that category? COVID-19 has provided a similar impetus for change, but far more widely. It has shaken up all sectors to a greater or lesser extent and has forced organizations and their customers out of their comfort zones and into new ways of operating and thinking. It is already clear that the crisis has accelerated many long-term trends, such as automation and the switch to cleaner, more environmentally friendly power. And keep that in mind, because one of the things that we're going to have to be thinking about is, and I talked about it last week, climate change. That is going to be, I believe, a disruptor on a scale far greater than COVID-19. So let's watch this space. It's probably far too early to see whether more people will continue to work from home or shop in different ways in the longer term. However, it seems likely that positive experiences during lockdown and increased familiarity with digital tools will accelerate trends towards a more flexible working and flexible shopping that had been predicted for a long time but been very slow to develop. Similarly, the need to reduce physical interaction is likely to drive new demands for automation and to cause organizations to explore more and innovative uses for artificial intelligence. So lots there for us to think about. So as I come to the end, can I remind you, those of you that are just joining us, that we've been talking today about disruption, and we have been thinking about what is meant by disruption. We have looked at examples of organizations that have approached business in innovative ways, and businesses that perhaps have failed because they haven't been innovative in understanding how to meet customer needs or innovative in taking opportunities. I wonder who will be the disruptors and disrupted as we emerge from COVID-19. I feel like writing something down putting it in an envelope, sealing it and looking at it in 12, 18 months' time. And think about the risks associated with a recession. And perhaps, as I said earlier, one of the fundamental changes in behaviour yet to be experienced is climate change. I have a car and it's a diesel. I bought diesel because at the time I was told that was the most environmentally friendly, far superior to petrol. No, not quite. The Institute has recently kicked off a project to look at disruption, both from a business and internal audit perspective. Two of the objectives are to raise the profile and status of the Institute and raise our profile with other relevant stakeholders, audit committee members, executive management, regulators, policymakers, and also to provide you, our members, with technical guidance and thought leadership content to support you managing and mitigating the risks associated with business disruption, and seek to identify opportunities for internal audit to disrupt itself. The live stream, as always, is available afterwards for those of your friends, colleagues who may have missed the live version, and it's on the Institute's Facebook channel. Follow all the exciting things the Institute is doing on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. As a member, you have access to the latest edition of the Audit and Risk magazine, which was published on the 2nd of July and is available on our website. Also, you'll be able to see on our website that we are advertising our conference, which is 30th of September, 1st of October. Have a look at the programme. It is a phenomenal list of very high-profile speakers that addresses all sectors in the economy. So, have a look at it, see whether it's something you want to be involved in. We're doing it on a virtual forum, using an avatar platform. Now, as someone who's never played a computer game in their life, I have no idea what that means, but looking forward to learning. So please, if it's something you're interested in, think about joining me. As always, I'm happy to take questions via email at liz.sandwith@iia.org.uk. Next week, 23rd of July, I'm handing over to my colleague Derek Jameson, who will be talking to Gordon Hutchinson from Change Management about internal audit recruitment market, both during COVID-19 and moving forward. Barclay Simpson have said, they're also an internal audit recruiter, have said that this is the first time since the 2007-8 financial crisis that they've been talking to companies considering shrinking the size of their internal audit teams. So join us to hear what Derek and Gordon have got to say. As we move forward into the new future, please don't forget to book the slot in your diary. 4 o'clock every Wednesday. Don't forget, it's tea time. And remember, talk to Internal Audit because the Institute is listening. Thank you and stay safe.